the office type environment. And that is predominantly what we do. So we have got absolutely no doubt that continuing investing in South Africa is important. As indicated today, our operations are 95% South African, so this continues to be our home base. Our ability and commitment to the South African economy is really at the top of our agenda, and we continue investing in our businesses and operations in the country. So we really, 30 years down the line, continue to have South Africa at the core of where we operate and what we do. So continued investment in the country is really top of mind for us. As you said, 30 years down the line, we've got just in excess of 200 businesses, most of them predominantly in South Africa. So you can appreciate that when we think about growth, it's going to come from the South African economy. And so that commitment to South Africa is there for us. It's never going to go away. And we're proud of what we've been able to do and what we've been able to achieve in the South African economy. And so we continue to look for opportunities for growth, both from an acquisitions perspective and in CapEx infrastructure type projects that we can invest in. One, of course, of them being the LPG project that we were launching today. So whilst South Africa at the moment is undergoing difficult times, particularly from a macroeconomic perspective, yes, we're challenged from an economic growth perspective. Yes, we're challenged from an unemployment perspective. But I think that we're going through a cycle that we will come out of. As do all economies. In our 30 years of operations, you can appreciate that we have seen many cycles in South Africa. And so whilst it is difficult today, we know that the cycle will turn. We will continue being an anchor in South Africa. We will continue investing so that we can attract international investment. There's no way that we can say investors must invest in an economy where local business itself is not investing. So we understand that it starts with us, and then the international investors will follow. So I suppose what I have to say around investing in South Africa is we remain a really robust and strong economy. We will come out of it. We have the president and including the Minister of Finance has come out with a reform plan for us to focus on, and we remain confident in the economy, and we understand the role that we as business need to play in also creating stimulus for the economy. So I really still firmly believe that South Africa is still a place to invest. We are very excited about the future prospects for Bidvest. We are sitting in what I would probably say is a growth phase for our business. So 3 years ago in 2016, we unbundled our food distribution business. And so today we probably sit about half the size we were 3 years ago. We were in 39 countries then, we're in far less countries now with 95% of our operations in South Africa. So the business is really positioned for growth. That growth for us is going to come out of both South Africa and our international operations. We are excited about what technology and innovation brings. So even within our own organizations, we're focusing on how we grow through technology, through innovation, artificial intelligence, and so on. So that's also another really exciting space for us. But yes, growth is probably a big word and a big buzzword for us at the moment. Economic growth is the one conversation that we should all be having. It's a conversation that is not just for government, but it's a conversation that should be had by private sector. It's a conversation for labor. It's a conversation for civil society. And I think as all parties, whether public or private or civil society, all of us just need to play our role in terms of contributing to stimulus for the economy. If we can work together and focus on what needs to be done, we can turn this economy around. So Bidvest is a services, trading and distribution business. We are 95% South African, so most of our operations are in South Africa. and the balance of that is a little bit in SADC and in the UK and Ireland. We employ at the moment just in excess of 120,000 people, and again, all of those predominantly in South Africa. And really, we provide a range of services and products into various industries. We operate across multiple industries, and our businesses focus on freight operations, services, trading businesses like electrical and other commercial products, automotive and financial services, and other products into the office type environment. And that is predominantly what we do. So we have got absolutely no doubt that continuing investing in South Africa is important. As indicated today, our operations are 95% South African, so this continues to be our home base. Our ability and commitment to the South African economy is really at the top of our agenda, and we continue investing in our businesses and operations in the country. So we really, 30 years down the line, continue to have South Africa at the core of where we operate and what we do. So continued investment in the country is really top of mind for us. As you said, 30 years down the line, we've got just in excess of 200 businesses, most of them predominantly in South Africa. So you can appreciate that when we think about growth, it's going to come from the South African economy. And so that commitment to South Africa is there for us. It's never going to go away. And we're proud of what we've been able to do and what we've been able to achieve in the South African economy. And so we continue to look for opportunities for growth, both from an acquisitions perspective and in CAPEX infrastructure type projects that we can invest in. One, of course, of the
Please take your seats. There'll be more than enough time to still exchange details. Thank you. Andile, the platform is yours.
Good afternoon. Just making sure that all of these mics are on, so give me 1 second. Is it afternoon already? Thank you for joining us this morning for the panel that we're about to have. As has been already laid down by many of the previous speakers, entrepreneurship is fundamental to the South African growth story. And for us today, we've got the entrepreneurs who are going to be sharing some of their stories and how investment from the community has aided them in getting to where they are. In addition to that, we want to also just unpack some of the
they're growing of their businesses. I'm Andile Masego from AlphaCode, which is a division of Rand Merchant Investments, and we do incubation, acceleration, and investment into financial services entrepreneurs. We're looking at the next generation of pioneers within the financial services space. That's me, but the stars of this panel will now introduce themselves. Mitch.
I'm Mitch Adams, if no one is Mitch. I'm one of the co-founders of a payments company called Ozo. We specifically focus on EFTs, electronic funds transfers, which is a wire transfer internationally. And we focus on that because that is an alternative to credit cards, and it's a lot more accessible to people than what cards is currently at the moment. So we serve a larger audience than what credit card does, or potentially serve a larger audience.
intro of yourself and then an overview of the business.
Morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Tina. I'm the Chief Catalyst at A2Pay, catalyst being the operative word. You would have heard Najwa mention a little bit about what we're doing and working in the township market. So A2Pay is a homegrown fintech business. We've been around for 10 years and we're a very successful job fund partner. And our mandate is to reduce the barriers to sustainable employment and facilitate and catalyze financial inclusion, which is a lot of big words really to mean please help small businesses grow and sustain themselves so they can become part of the formal economy. We focus exclusively on spaza shops. It's the most exciting market in South Africa. I'm hugely optimistic about South Africa's future because I work with these amazing South African entrepreneurs. And our technology and our solution addresses 4 of the main 5 pain points that spaza shops typically offer, and I'll explain a little bit of those later. But we provide a POS device, an actual full-blown point-of-sale device, and some business information and tools, business tracking, and coaching. And we've twined a methodology that links the coach, which is a South African employee, first-time employee, the merchant, and the operator, which is the job we create, on a 3-year journey using obviously our technology and simple nudge economics. That's a little bit about the project.
Thanks, Gene.
And I'm GJ van Rooyen from Crystals Media Technologies. I'm co-founder of the company. And we pay movie pirates Bitcoin to rat on each other. So we're a fintech payments company. Actually what we do is we embed security deposits directly into sensitive media. For example, in the film industry, we help our clients to prevent and detect leaks of movies before they're released for cinematic release. We do that by putting tiny cryptocurrency deposits in each copy that goes out in a forensic watermark that's invisible but also almost impossible to remove. And we then make it very easy to leverage the intelligence of the community out there, the file sharing community, to go and look for our clients' content, extract these bounties for their own reward, and in that way alert us that a particular copy has been leaked. We've been operating for 5, almost 6 years now, doing most of the South African films. Our biggest client is in Japan, where we run a very large feature film catalog where buyers need to be able to browse screeners of movies and decide what to purchase. And we also work with ebooks in the UK. We've recently started working with confidential document protection, working with training institutions to protect content that's proprietary to that institution as well. And we try to be one of the university spin-outs in the country. For my sins, I used to be an academic. I was an academic for 17 years, associate professor in electronic engineering at Stellenbosch University. I did recover. We spun out the business. Entrepreneurship seemed quite appealing, and I ended up spinning out with the business. And we got started with some very good seed grant funding from the Technology Innovation Agency. So TIA, very early in our business, when it was really just a concept, a lab prototype, said, here's R500,000, go and test the market, go and see whether this could be a product. And that's really what launched the business. And a year or 2 later, TIA came to us again and invested a further seed investment to help us grow the business and really take it to market. So it's a nice story of how public funding can be used inside a public institution to spin out companies that can start operating commercially and independently.
Yes, it is. And that actually allows us to segue into this next section, or the questions that I have for you. Because when we look at the landscape and the hype that's actually come through, the fintech environment has gotten a lot of interest. The stats indicate that in the past 2 years, there has been over $100 million USD that's been raised in the fintech environment, financial technology businesses. And when you look at the South African landscape, the funding is scattered in a variety of ways. You've got the ESD, so Enterprise and Supply Development funding that comes through, and then you've got the partnerships from guys like the SSME Fund, the Jobs Fund you spoke earlier. But for a moment, let's just focus on fintech, because out of all of the entrepreneurial sections or segments, this has garnered the most attention in the past 4 years. So, Mitch, from your side, given your background and having played within the financial landscape in a variety of areas, what is the hype around fintech locally and globally about?
Well, the thing is, there is hype all these other sectors as well, but fintech touches it as well. Whatever your sector is, maybe agri or medical, it still needs to move money somewhere. There's a financial aspect to it. So fintech actually touches every single industry out there, in every market. And I mean, if you look at the financial sector in its own right, it's an exciting market. I mean, you look at JSE, you look at Wolf of Wall Street type things. And then you bring technology to the forefront of that. How can it not be exciting? How can it not be something that's going to bring great returns? So people want 10x companies. That's what they look for. They're not just looking for successful companies, they're looking for companies that can 10x their volume and 10x their investments. So yeah, that's the reason why it exists and why it's so exciting and why people are investing in it.
You gave the very safe answer, because a lot of the fintech entrepreneurs would jump to two aspects. One, the fintech players who currently there, or financial service players rather, are dinosaurs. That's how they tend to refer to it, and therefore they're ripe for disruption, and that's why we want to be in that space.
Look, I wouldn't call them dinosaurs. They're good at what they do. They're good at infrastructure. They're good at trust, building trust with people, and rightly so, as you say, disruption. That's a buzzword and a trendy word that these incumbents were using at a specific time, especially when we came about, and we did just that, we disrupted. And the dictionary definition of disruption is not a nice word. It's bad, and we came and frustrated them, aggravated them, to a point where 5 years later, they now partnering with us. And I see a great deal of value in that, because we can't do what they do. We can't gain that trust. We can't build massive infrastructure. But we can interface with end users at the end of the day much better than what they can. We're a lot more agile.
Tina, then looking at the South African landscape, what gives us a comparative advantage to compete in these kind of industries, specifically looking at fintech? When you look at the UK, which is the financial hub globally, there's Singapore, which has had an immense push with their entrepreneurial ventures, and also looking at finance, and the rest of the globe, US obviously being one of the top ones in that realm. Why South Africa for fintech?
So that's a good question. First of all, the economies you're talking about there are developed. And I think that South Africa's got real frontier mentality. So I think we are prepared to do stuff and do things and experience things that other people necessarily aren't, because they may well be working in a highly regulated environment. I think what differentiates us here is that we have also used a grant fund and brought it into a commercial PTY. And we've been a very successful job fund partner, and it is a challenge fund like Najwa spoke about. And what we've seen is a better ROI on that grant investment because it's been working in a commercial platform. And the model we've now built, because of that, is scalable, replicable, and portable, and allows for commercial investment going forward. So the combination of technology that we're doing, so we are a slightly different technology beast. We're working very closely with a training methodology coupled with technology. So to put technology into a market where you are dealing with digital immigrants, now I'm a digital outlier. This is a digital native, okay? This is someone who speaks digital, and I'm a digital outlier or a digital immigrant at the best of case. And what we've discovered is you can get anybody to adopt technology, so long as it's easy enough. You reduce the barriers to acceptance of it, and you give them enough time, and it essentially has to solve a pain point. And that's really what we are finding is working so well for us here. We have established entrepreneurs. The spin-off of the project has been that other people out there in the market have seen the fact that when you are able to see the data of a business, which is essentially one of the 5 pain points that these merchants have struggled with, they haven't been able to track their business. The technology allows these merchants to track their business. And we've built a partnership with the SA SME Fund, where we are able to now loan working capital down to sponsors because we have the information about how they're trading. And because we've got a nudge economics process on, we can see whether people are willing, invested, and able, which is the important thing that you want. The uptake has been extraordinary. I think President mentioned it about how access to capital enlivens and enables people. And we are dispersing about R1 million a month now to spaza shops to either open their second shop or to grow their first shop. And our stats show us that for every 30 shops we invest in, we're probably opening an additional 7. So we're an interesting anomaly to fintech because we are slightly slower than a conventional fintech, which is lean and fast scalable. We're working very closely using technology to enable people. We are also able to disperse a grant through our technology. Our platform allows us to actually disperse a grant. And so when we finalize the pilot that we are conducting at the moment, we will really be able to start introducing an inclusive economy with our spaza shops, allowing them to disperse grant payouts and benefit from the spin-offs.
So to follow up on that, because one of the big advantages when people talk about tech-enabled businesses is the ability to then scale it. And by how you're explaining the A2Pay model, it doesn't scale as easily in the intuitive sense of what you'd expect. So just talk around how scaling in the South African context usually then plays out.
Okay. So one of our requirements from the Job Fund is that we employ young South African first-time workers. So I don't have access to graduates. And what we've done is we've looked at how do I get to 10,000 sites, which I think is a chunky number, 10,000 sites within 3 years. And we've experimented with and refined our execution model to take a first-time worker and with the help of an exceptional content developer, give them the methodology to work step by step with the merchant over a 3-year period. And so we will probably hire 120 coaches, and those people will in turn work with 120 spazas. And our methodology works quarterly, and we have, as Najwa said, we've executed 3,000 already. And one of the things that A2Pay insists on doing above all else is we insist on executing and we insist on measuring. And you cannot measure if you don't execute, and you cannot execute if you don't measure. And so the whole program that we have is cornerstoned around the technology, providing us with information and providing our merchants with information. So it's all about data, actually.
And part of that process is also then upskilling the merchants. They become very familiar with the tech. What are the graduates that you brought into that role?
Digitizing them. For instance, we take in a card acquiring machine, because about 20% of all transactions in the market now are done on a credit or debit card. So the more technology you bring to the market, providing access to finance, providing them with support and training, and digitizing them, literally sets up the market for regulation and for formalization.
It makes a nice segue for the question that I have for GJ. And I don't know in the audience how many people are familiar with the term blockchain. How many know how to explain what a block is in a blockchain? And this is exactly why when we're talking about tech and you still then have to train people just to understand what their technology is, it becomes interesting as an entrepreneur trying to get into the market, convincing the people that you're selling to about the technology and getting them to then buy in. So how did you do it with Christos?
I think one of the temptations for a tech founder or a tech entrepreneur is to try to sell the technology, try to talk about what the thing does and how it does it. And one of the early lessons you need to learn as an entrepreneur is that's not what you're selling. You're selling something that's going to relieve a very particular customer pain. So although we do use blockchain in a very sophisticated way in the way we trace our clients' content, for many of them we don't even say we do that. For our first client, for our South African client that we started piloting with 4 years ago, we just said that we're putting in trackers inside their movies and we'll be able to tell them if they get lost. So we just used an automotive, well-understood metaphor to explain what's happening there. And I think, and maybe it's an effect of early technology triggers when people become very excited about a new technology trigger like blockchain. That becomes the tail that wags the dog. It's more about the technology than how you're going to solve that or use that to solve a particular client problem. And I think we've seen many blockchain blockchain startups, cryptocurrency startups that sell the technology without really solving a real need in the market.
And that's a very valid point. We've seen it in each of the cohorts that we ask applications for, where we're saying, guys, we've got the 2 million rand entrepreneurial package that we give to you, but give us a compelling financial service product, and everybody is going on about the tech as opposed to the problem that you're actually solving. But that takes us to thinking around the nature of talent within the South African ecosystem to, one, be able to build out the products, but then two, continue to grow. So you're needing the tech skills. So when we're talking about blockchain and AWS and all of these other cloud services, you're needing the kind of skill set to be able to make your product exist, even though you're going to sell it in a simplistic way. Does South Africa have that talent from your experience? Tina.
So operationally and commercially, we've experienced amazing talent. Okay, so we can take a first-time worker, and we're able to grow that person because there's a lot of opportunities to model and develop within our working environment. Tech-wise, it's quite difficult, and there is a real shortage of skills locally in South Africa. And I was thinking about it this morning, what we should be doing about it, and I suddenly thought, well, probably we should be solving the problem. In other words, fintech companies probably need to get together and create an environment for the development of the fintech expertise that is required to take us into the fourth generation. But fintech expertise is a rare commodity in South Africa at the moment.
You overlay that with a look at what the AWS guys have done by setting up down in Cape Town. So you're seeing them actually investing and saying, we think there may be some talent that resides here, it might not be significant enough, but over time, with our investment into the South African ecosystem, we will be able to get that to happen. And the same has happened with Microsoft through Azure, right? So there is a view from international players that perhaps there's something to be unearthed. Might not be there just yet, but there's something to unearth, and let's be the early movers in that kind of space, right? You have a comment?
Yeah, I do. Because our entire solution is very, very reliant on tech, so we have quite a bit of developers. So you have a few issues. Number one, if you're going to get a decent developer, it's not that it's going to... You get somebody like that, they're coming at a high price, they're coming from cushy jobs and banks with all the benefits. You need to give them something that makes them feel safe, that for the next 2 years, they're going to get a decent salary, and if it all fails, their families are still safe. Do they have a pension to fall back on?
And medical aid and all of that. And as a startup, how do you offer these things to people? The other thing is, yes, getting a really good developer at a good price coming from a bank already has a mindset that you have to change. Saying, you're coming into a startup environment, we want stuff in 2 weeks, not in 2 years. So yeah, we find people coming in and leaving within 3 months. Now, I like soccer analogies because I like soccer, and
are you a Pirates fan?
No, Chiefs.
Unfortunately. But I look at the team that's not doing really well now, but they did really well under
Ferguson. And their key was to always have people coming out of the ranks from their training camps. I mean, David Beckham came from their gigs, all of these guys, and they started out when they were 13 and they just moved up. So I was saying, let's hire guys fresh out of university, put them into a support role or something, and then have a 2-day coaching session where we create a curriculum where we just train these guys and build them the way we want them. And within 2 years, every month we'll be able to bring a new piece of talent into our pool. And we would never have to go out looking for people anymore. So we're actually trying to start there right now. We're going to buy a bus, a massive bus, and pump it out with technology, laptops and all of that, and go out to townships and on the weekends and find kids, just invite them, say, come over, play on this computer. It's probably the first time some of these kids might see a computer, see who's interested, see who has that knack, and then bring them in. We have companies like Microsoft willing to bring in the curriculums, and we have a few companies that are willing to hire these guys, and we'll take them in as interns in the same way that we're doing that. So this idea came up
about 3 years ago, we're only getting to do it right now.
I thought entrepreneurs move quickly.
to release our products, yeah. To help, first we have to help ourselves in order to help other people.
And that makes a really good point, almost alluding to what Vusi had mentioned with regards to Elon not being a rarity in terms of the skill set, but the opportunities being availed to them. So when you're thinking about setting up an entrepreneurial business within the South African landscape, understand that a part of what you should do in order to be able to capitalize the most for yourself is then give back in that way, because by giving the young graduate an opportunity for exposure to the kind of technology, you'll unearth what's really promising talent.
Yeah, but these aren't even graduates. These are guys that think they don't have a future at this moment. We want to come show them something amazing. And another thing is, you need to be able to speak in those languages. I myself can't speak Zulu or Tswana, but we have guys that work for us that can. And they in themselves are really true testament of what has changed in their lives now. They come from a underprivileged background, and they're now fairly privileged. They live in a great life, they're in a good job, so they can serve testament in the language that people understand, and excite these people and get them a bit more passionate about their future, because at this moment all they're getting sold is doom and gloom.
One of the points you made earlier is around how tough it is as a startup to be able to bring more people in, but you guys are all in this startup environment. So as the last parting shot, I think it's worthwhile to understand your journeys and why you took the crazy leap. So just in very short terms, if you had it all to do over again, would you leave the comforts of being a lecturer at Stellenbosch? So we'll start with you, GJ, and come this side. And what have you learned through the entrepreneurial journey? What got you in? What have you learned? Would you do it over again? Do it all over again?
So it's interesting, in the last 5-6 years when I was at Stellenbosch University, my research focus was entrepreneurial development in technology. We had a very generous sponsorship, corporate social investment by Naspers into a research lab that we founded at Stellenbosch University, focused on stimulating entrepreneurial thought, getting students not just in the science and technology research fields, but also in philosophy and political science and social informatics, to start thinking about the application of emerging technology in the market, in their domains. And we were trying to crack this nut, solve this riddle of how you start getting good businesses spinning out of university research. And the dream was, and something that Naspers wanted to see come out of this, is more students forming startups rather than go into corporate life, go into business. And I became very interested in how this innovation pipeline runs. And at the moment when we invented the technology, where we discovered this way in which you can use a cryptocurrency transaction to embed a type of vulnerability on the recipient, give a recipient of media skin in the game, we realized it had potential commercial value, and we started spitting it out and testing it in the market. And I suddenly realized that I'm in a position where I can be part of this experiment. I can experience the innovation pipeline myself by taking the next step, and at the point where the business seemed to be reasonably sustainable, I took the leap and I went into business full time. And I would do it again. Whether the business succeeds or fails, it's been a fascinating journey from really technological genesis to the point where something is in the market, the clients are paying for it.
Cool. Tina, from your side, also very short. You left the corporate environment to actually go into the startup world. So just a brief bit of that journey, and would you do it all over again?
I'm not ready to leave. I'm extremely happy with what this job is about, largely because we're running a commercial business and we've got this incredible social purpose. So not only do we get up every day around the numbers, how are we doing, what are we doing, is it working, do we need to change? Everything we're doing is having a huge impact on the market, and that's extremely exciting. The things we live by are execution, do, and then do again, then measure, and then do better. Do better, measure, and then do better. So the whole organization is focused around execution and doing. We have some very simple assumptions in the business. Give the right people the right information and they make the right decisions. And we started pushing business information down to the spaza shops. They started making the right decisions. We give the same thing to the people who work at A2Pay, give everybody the right information and the right people the right information and they make the right decisions. And then Vusi, you spoke about languaging earlier on. And we like to re-language things so you are forcing an interesting viewpoint. We don't talk about the informal market, we don't talk about the unseen economy, we don't talk about the invisible market. We talk about the primary market. The reason for that is that when you talk about something in those terms, you really are looking at it through a different set of glasses. So no, I'm extremely optimistic about South Africa, and we are going to create 35,000 jobs and probably 15,000 businesses that will enable.
That's very impressive. Mitch, your story, can you imagine 35,000 jobs? Not yet.
Hopefully, we want to be the first unicorn in Africa. So yeah, that takes $1 billion evaluation. What I'm about to say might be a bit controversial, but that's me. So there's a saying that says, "Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life." So that's just a saying. How do you love what you do if you don't even know what you want to do, or how to do it, or have the capital in order to do it? I say all of this really 100% needs to be funded by your aid. And South Africa, unfortunately, has a lot of aid, but it's a good driving force. And at times, I think it can be even stronger than love. And you just have to channel your aid in the best way. So hate something so much that you're willing to change it. I hated the fact that payments take so long. Like, I've always had this theory that people are stealing to save time, not money, because it just took so long to pay. It was just a schlep. It was a mission to always either pay online or pay somebody else, transfer money, pay it in queues, Saturdays, standing queues. I hate that. And that's when we started coming up with the solutions. I also hate the fact that, you know, there's people out there that go through worse experience than me. I think of somebody that has to take a taxi to buy groceries and then put those groceries in a bag and get onto the taxi with that and then drive back and carry cash money with them all this way, potentially getting robbed in the places that they go into. And then I have like a multi-macan, I can put that in. Why can't we take a lot to these guys? Why can't they just order online and get it to them? And how do we get the digital aspect to them? So I hated that so much that we came up with something that gave me a passion. We started driving it, and now I love what I do, and I don't work anymore.
That is the end of our panel discussions. What I have summed up from bits of what you've each said from your last comment now, Mitch, is around finding a real pain point and solving for that is how you get a proper solution out of the market. I think GJ, that almost speaks to your same point around the hype. Don't just follow the hype of a product, rather solve the problem first. And then the other aspect, which is just gone through from your collaboration story of when you had disrupted some of these guys a little bit, and the investment from NASPERS, the Jobs Fund, and now SME Fund, the collaboration from the rest of the ecosystem makes entrepreneurship succeed within the South African context. And as much as the innovators are going to be the ones who want to disrupt, sure, you're showing a new way to go forward, but the other players in the ecosystem can then still give you a leg up and we all benefit. It's not just a winner-takes-all kind of situation.
Can I just add one more thing to that? And it goes with what Tino was saying as well. Don't be protective of our idea. We're all very protective of our ideas. This is my idea, don't steal it. Share your ideas, because it all comes down to execution at the end of the day. And if you share your ideas with somebody else, that person's going to buy into it. And once you have some buy-in and everybody collaborates, more jobs, more ideas. It's not your idea, it's the solution for everyone.
Thank you very much for given us the opportunity to engage you. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
You ready? Good. Ladies and gentlemen, your next panel, moderated by Yusuf.
All good? Okay. Hello everybody, my name is Yusuf. I'll be moderating this panel. I've learned quickly, I wasn't here yesterday, but I've learned quickly today that if you must speak about important investment topics in this conference, but if you really want the crowd to like what you're saying, you must also talk about the Springboks. So I thought I'd open with that. I was at OR Tambo yesterday collecting my in-laws, and the Springboks happened to be arriving. And as you know what happens with rugby events in South Africa, everyone started singing Shosholoza at OR Tambo at the arrivals hall. And I got into it and I started singing, and halfway through, I realized that I still, at 36 years old, don't know what the words mean to Shosholoza. And I thought to myself, come on, how can you still not know, to Lucy's point, what these words are? And I started to get caught up in this idea of, well, what does this really, like, what if what the Springboks achieved, this diversity, this excellence, this positivity, really represented what the country lived on a daily basis, where every day we were winning the World Cup, and not just being a symbol of what we could be. And I thought, well, first of all, one of the things that would happen in a very meaningful, if that was meaningful, I would be able to speak this language that I'm singing in, and that I believe in, but I don't really understand. But when I also thought about what we're talking about today, one of the things I thought for sure is that we cannot become that country without doubling down on SMEs in the country. Because of the reasons that you know, they drive growth, they drive employment, but also in this context, very importantly, they drive transformation.
Every new startup is an opportunity for a new business owner, a new captain of industry, in a way that's a lot harder when you're talking about established business. And they also drive wealth redistribution, because new startups create new wealth, which can equal the playing field.
But what we do in South Africa a lot is we say SME, and that just means everything. And even in the President's address, we went everywhere from township entrepreneurs to venture capital.
And that is a very difficult thing for investors to get their head around, because if you're thinking about investing in SMEs in South Africa, what are you really saying? So for the last 10 years, I made a decision to come back to South Africa. I grew up here, was working in America, and I made a decision to come back and invest my time and energy in the SME space here. And I've worked in everything from micro enterprise all the way through to SME equity. And we manage supplier development funds for SAP and Imperial and a few other companies. And so I have a portfolio of SME equity investments. So I've worked across the range. And all of our panelists here work in
very different spaces, which I think is a very nice way to bring this discussion to you. So this is not an entrepreneur panel, although all of these people are actually also entrepreneurs. This is an investor panel,
where we're going to talk to you about investing in the SME space, all from very different perspectives. So our panel is very short. I won't introduce each person. They're going to first introduce themselves, tell you the opportunity they see, and what they're investing in, and try to make it real for you by giving an example. And then we'll go through some of the challenges and wrap up in the 30 minutes that we have. So, Tabs, will you start us?
Thank you very much, Yusuf. My name is Tabassum Kader. I'm known as Tabs. I'm the founder and CEO of Uprise Africa, which is the first equity crowdfunding platform on the continent. Our platform allows you to invest in small businesses, startups, and also trade the shares of these startups and small businesses on a stock exchange. This has never happened on the continent, that a startup can be listed from the first day on stock exchange. We were recently awarded the Public Service Award, Uprise Africa, from ICT Best Startup. So we are into selling stories. We have stories of solar power, we have stories of football club, we have stories of production company on our platform, which come to us obviously for investments from the crowd. But today, before I sell my stories, I want to sell South Africa today, here. I'm originally from Pakistan, have been in South Africa for around 12 years. I'm a South African citizen. Last month, my mom called me and she said, I'm really worried about you when I hear about all this xenophobia. And I told my mom, what are you talking about? Your daughter, being a female, coming to South Africa, on merit, she have launched the first equity crowdfunding platform. She was able to launch the first female-founded airline in South Africa. Come on now, what are you talking about xenophobia? Please, give me any other reason. If you're missing me, I'm coming back, but please don't give me this reason. So all the foreign delegates who are here, I would encourage you from my example that this country is beautiful country. This country is user-friendly country. Yes, you might not have the economic indicators which may be a better, because I have also done all my years I did business in East Africa and in South Africa. But I chose to come to South Africa because of two major reasons, which are never spoken on any platform. And that was the weather and the lifestyle. So trust me, this is an investment platform. But I'm telling you these two things. Now things are changing. Leave the economic indicators or everything, that has to come. But the South Africa, what South Africa has to offer, no other country in the world has to offer. I have been around the world, trust me. So I hope I've sold South Africa as I could, and I will keep doing that. But not only South Africa, I also want to sell the stories on my platform. These are wonderful stories. Wonderful stories. They are hard. These entrepreneurship spirit, I don't believe the entrepreneurship spirit is not there. The entrepreneurship spirit is there. The investor spirit is not there. Trust me. All you need to do is, please do not look at your phones now. Don't. Just focus. Focus on what we are trying to say here. Focus on what stories we are bringing you. The best South African stories are there. Every day I meet these entrepreneurs. Every day these small businesses come to us. From a property development to, they are changing the world, whether it comes to a fintech, whether it's a energy, whether it's a sports, whether it is creative, everything, you name it, and we have the stories. We have stories, it just needs your little attention, that's all. Thank you very much. And one more thing, I was just at the tea break, and I met this lady, I'm sure she's in the audience right now. So I'm just giving an example of an entrepreneurship spirit. She has been in the education field. She just spoke to me about 2-3 minutes. I spoke to her and she said she was in this education field. She left her education and she started this furniture retail shop, and she has some patent to do these unique kind of units. She can't even pay her rent for this month. So it was very sad that leaving a job, she started her own furniture business, and today she's trying to get investments here. Wherever she is, please, I've done the judgment. I've done the justice to your story, because she told me that she is here to tell her story. Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sam. I am the founder and CEO of a firm called Sonari Capital. We are an investment firm. We're a value-adding private equity firm that invests in what we call the lower and mid-market. Now, this is actually quite a big range that we invest in. It can range anything from about 25 million rand size business all the way up to about 500 million rand. What's interesting is that it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. So our vision is very much around building the next generation of owner-managed businesses in the mid-market and above, particularly businesses that are run by Black and or women CEOs. We are very much focused on this, particularly because we want to create visibility and aspiration, which makes it understandable and known to next generations that I can do this, that these are pathways for me. I get it often, I get asked as a woman, what made you decide to be a founder? What made you decide to be a CEO? And the question often surprises me, because I want to say, well, but no one told me I couldn't be. And that was because my mom was a founder and a CEO. And she never said to me I must grow up and be this, but it just never occurred to me that I shouldn't. So Sonari Capital has a very institutional approach. We love the sectors that we focus on. We're technically a generalist firm, but we have investment themes that we invest behind. And if we have time, we'll go into a few examples, but it ranges from very much technology and digital-oriented strategies around, for example, big data and analytics, all the way through to education, healthcare, and green solutions. And we can pick up on examples if we get a chance.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, it is an investment conference, so I wanted to ask you guys, one of the things I find when raising funds is that everyone loves the social story to start, but when it comes down to it, investors are targeting returns. So what kind of returns do you guys target in your funds or in your platform? And then what kind of check sizes are you looking at when you're investing in these businesses? Or when, on Uprise.Africa, when people are investing?
Uprise, we have seen businesses coming to us to raise around 4 million to up to 250 million rand. So our check, because we are a crowdfunding platform, like I said, and then the platform allows you to give you very, it has all the documents for you to do your own due diligence. So everything is there in the public domain. And that's how in the world crowdfunding has been around for 6-7 years. It's not something new globally. In South Africa, it is new because of the regulations, and we are currently as a sandbox of the Reserve Bank. So yes, I mean, check sizes really depending on, it's investors' choice. So currently, today I'm launching in the evening, there is a KZN development, which has a raise of 45 million rand. So all of you are invited if you want to come to Future Space today. It's a 6 o'clock launch there, and it's a big launch. So all the campaigns, we launch it through a big event where these investors, retail investors, because the minimum investment starts from 3,000 rand. So it is depending on, and the returns are there. So every business has its own return policy. Every business has its own ROI mentioned on the platform.
Got it. Great. Sam?
So I think what is interesting, and I think the question of the day, or of these 2 days that we've had, has been how we ignite growth on the one hand, and I think that's a question that we've looked at multiple different areas. But I think that the other part of it has been around how do we find growth, or how do we find opportunity, return opportunities in a low growth environment. So that is certainly, I mean, I had a shocking experience earlier in the year where we were raising capital, and we raised like way less than I expected. And we raised so far, historically at least, from high net worth individuals, family offices, etc., very sentiment-driven type of investors. We are now raising from institutions. However, the shock to me was I had a little bit of a blind spot, because we see so much opportunity. We see such tremendous opportunity in our space that I neglected to realize what the real sentiment was earlier in the year. So it's an interesting one, and it's very much driven by the fact that we're able to, because we invest in this lower and mid-market, we're able to invest in businesses that are more reasonably valued, and also businesses where we believe we have got much more capability to unlock growth. So we target quite high returns, so on at least a base case. So this is the scenario where we believe it's highly achievable. We're targeting at least 25% returns. But in actual fact, it ranges up to a very high level. I won't mention them here. But it's very much dictated by the fact that we feel that there are a lot more things that are within our control. It's still very hard work. We work very hard for our returns, and I think when we get into a little bit around what are some of the challenges of operating, investing in the lower and mid-market, what we have to do to actually achieve that. But we certainly believe that investing in SMEs, growth capital, private equity, venture capital, all of this affords a tremendous opportunity for investors, because even in a low-yielding environment, you can generate attractive investment returns.
Okay, awesome. And so, I mean, what I'm hearing there is, you know, we talk about SMEs as an engine of growth, but as an investor, the returns in SMEs, if you get a great manager, if you get the right assets, can outstrip most other things that you can do, often because you're investing at a time where the growth curve is very steep, and these investments are coming off a very low base. So we're hearing significant check sizes, opportunity for institutional investors, and targeting attractive returns. Thurston, is that the same for you?
Yes. I would actually echo both the sentiments of Tab and Sam. So just as an intro, I'm Thurston Woodley. I'm a co-founder and managing partner of a financial services firm called Kumovest. We're a 100% black-owned and managed financial services firm. Our investment team currently has in excess of 30 years of investment experience, and that goes across sectors. A large amount of our experience has actually been in the mid and large cap space before we actually founded this business. And when we came out of it, it really wasn't the space that we actually wanted to be in. And the reason why we didn't want to be in that space is because lots of people think that mid and large cap is easier is easier to invest because those companies are well established, they have track records, they have particular structures in place. But the truth is that you as an investor, your ability to actually create value and actually, achieve a superior return in that space, it takes a lot of fancy financial work. For us, our passion and our goal is on growing South Africa. And the way that we believe that we can do that is through the SME market. So our business focus is on SMEs, and it's on growth capital SMEs. We started off as a business by advising those SMEs. We've invested off our own balance sheet close to 100 million rand in growth capital into the SME market, and that goes across pharmaceutical, financial services, renewable energy. And we're in the process of raising a 500 million rand private equity fund that will specifically focus on the SME market as a whole. And the reason why SMEs, please by no means get us wrong, we're not impact investors or philanthropists in any way. I completely echo what Sam is saying. We're investing in SMEs, and we're investing our own money in SMEs currently because we actually believe that it's an area of the market where we can achieve superior returns as compared to traditional investments. Like Sam said, it's actually funny. When we meet with investors and they ask us for expected returns, we always say, circa 30%, north of greater than 30%. That's because if you tell them that you want 70 or 80% or 90%, they think that you're crazy. But the truth of the matter is that these things are achievable with proper, fit-for-purpose and structured investment strategies into the SME space.
I really like the example you gave me when we were talking about the panel beforehand, especially in that it illustrated both the opportunity in South Africa, but the opportunity that South Africa represents to grow businesses onto the continent. Could you talk about that quickly?
Sure. So this is an example of a company, and it actually very much echoes what President Ramaphosa was talking about this morning. So we're invested in an emerging pharmaceutical manufacturer that manufactures not medicinal pharmaceuticals, but consumer-based pharmaceuticals, specifically a range of sanitizers. When we found this business, it was essentially a sales business. They had a particular license and recipe, but they were using a contract manufacturer, and there were two people that were based out of the MD's house. We saw great potential, for one, in the management team, two, in the technology, and three, in the ability to impact this business significantly with a small amount of capital. So we went in, we invested our capital, growth capital, again, as an equity partner into this business. The business then utilized that capital to purchase its own manufacturing facility in Centurion. So currently, it went from a contract manufacturer to manufacturing its own products. And it went from having 2 employees to close to 15 employees, all with a relatively small amount of capital. Today, the business, when we found it, it was doing small-scale sales through the likes of Takealot. But as we currently speak, the business is still doing sales in the retail space, but is also exporting product through to Zambia, is in the process of concluding a deal to export product through to Angola. So I think that's a great example of finding an opportunity where somebody actually needs your input. They need capital, yes, but they need your input. Because with that particular business, when we found them, their aspirations were much more limited than where they are today. And sometimes you need someone with an external perspective to guide them.
Awesome. Matani, SME opportunities in the agricultural sector.
Thank you. My name is Matani Makhato. I'm the co-founder of Matla Capital. Our business is around advisory, structuring, and capital raising. We basically take a concept and turn it into a fundable project. And so we do a range of advisory, preparing the project for market and making sure that it gets a better chance of success. We like agriculture a lot for a number of reasons. One, the current community of farmers are aging, and we therefore need younger entrepreneurs who are willing to enter this space because of the declining numbers. And number two is that South Africa is battling to establish and develop a new cadre of farmers who can be the farmers of the future. And number three, as a country, we are well endowed with land that is conducive for agriculture. And number 4, lastly, we are a net exporter of agricultural goods, which means that by nature, when you get into the agricultural space, it's not only for a domestic production or a domestic consumption, but it also allows you to enter into the export market, which is vast. And I must say that we particularly like high-value commodities because we think that it's about time that smaller and emerging farmers start to look into these high-value commodities. I mean, in particular, your tree nuts, which is like your macadamia nuts, your cashew nuts. I particularly like the macadamia nuts. I mean, over the past 3 to 5 years, we have seen phenomenal growth in the macadamia, the macadamia nuts space. They are grown mainly in Mpumalanga and southern KZN. What I like about the south of KZN is that 1, it's close to the port, access to international market, and 2, the south of KZN has above average rainfall, so which means that the challenges around water are a little bit minimized. And other high value commodities that are seeing a growth is your blueberries, your avos, your pomegranates. I mean, right now the consumers are very sophisticated. They are very health conscious. I mean, and the pomegranate is one of those who are packed with antioxidants. So we love agriculture a lot.
Awesome. And so, I mean, so we manage one of the businesses that we have invested in manages the SAB Smallholder Farmer Program. And when you have a great success, it's fantastic. But the truth is, Thurston, you spoke to this, investing in SMEs is more volatile. There are more challenges. It's not like buying a blue chip on the stock exchange and then you check in every few months to see how it's going. These are often, you have to be really hands-on to make these returns happen. So can you guys speak briefly about some of the challenges you see as investors in the space, and then what do you do to mitigate these challenges? Start with you, Thurston.
For me, the challenge in the investment industry is it starts from the DNA, I would say the DNA. The decisiveness, where is the decisiveness? Actually, we struggle on getting a decision from the table, whoever we are sitting with. There is a survey done, literally there is a survey, official survey done, that in South Africa, if you have to close a deal, it takes you 7 meetings. And by the time you reach to the 8th meeting, that person is changed. So, so how do you do 7 meetings? And every meeting you will get at a space of a month. So 7 months you are just closing the deal. And then we are talking about unicorns and Airbnb and Uber. Then please don't talk about it.
Talk what our culture allows you to. Talk what our behaviors allows you to. There is lots of incubation being done on the entrepreneur side. I wish there was an incubation program for the investors. Trust me, we need workshops, we need incubation, not from the entrepreneur side. You can incubate and accelerate the entrepreneurs. They become the fantastic entrepreneurs. Their documents are there, everything is there. But have you done any groundwork on the investment psyche? You haven't, we haven't not done anything about it. Me as an example, I came to South Africa to sell textiles. Every Tom, Dick and Harry I was giving 2 million rand credit. I was not checking their creditability and ROI. Sorry, I don't come from a financial background. So ROI, yes, definitely ROI is important. The economic indicators are important. But there is something which is called equity. When you take equity, you don't see, because you marry that entrepreneur and you take them to a point where they give you an ROI. So come out of this lending and interest-based culture.
That's an interesting.
Come out of this interest-based culture.
Yeah, and that's as I said, I think Sam also wants to make a point about South African. So the culture that we have, it is actually quite a conservative culture, and so hopefully a lot of the foreign investors here can be a bit more decisive. But I think that's also what's nice about going onto a crowdfunding platform,
is you go direct to the investee, right? There's no middleman.
There's no middleman, definitely. Decision is in your hand. You just click, you decide, you say yes or you say no. Don't make it non-applicable.
So I must just debate whether you know, SMEs are harder. They are definitely harder in terms of the work that you've got to put in. But for me, as a control freak, I can't imagine ever being more comfortable with picking listed stocks. Okay, so listed stocks, you take them or you leave them, and then you go back to your day job and you hope like crazy that someone else has got your back. In our industry, first of all, the important thing about private equity and venture capital is we put our own money in to these companies. So we don't get to give advice, then walk away. We have to stay there. We have to help. We have to be part of crafting the opportunities, and if things don't go well, we've got to be part of crafting the solutions. So as much as I do argue that we very much work for our returns, I would say that I'm at least more comfortable that the risk of investing in these types of growth businesses can be very well managed by a good manager. So where is the challenge? And I also sit on the board of SAFCA, which is the South African Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. They're represented here today as well, so anyone who's got any questions, Shelley's over there. As part of SAFCA, we are very involved in addressing all of the regulatory challenges that we face, that our SMEs and our private capital investments face in the industry. So we're hard at work. We welcome all government officials to please remain open to us as well as we try to really expand this industry. But I will, instead of focusing on the challenges that the public sector or regulatory environments face, I would actually like to challenge business. So we heard the President speaking earlier, and he could not have had better words to me, and then we just got to get the message out to large corporate. There's a lot of talk around supporting SMEs, but I can tell you now, and to Yusuf's point, to Tabs' point, we don't have a great culture of risk-taking. It's you can't get fired by awarding the business to the incumbent. And in actual fact, our experience is that some of our SMEs, most of our SMEs, they put their very best foot forward, they've lined things up, they've got good product, they've got good solutions, they have set things up, they are majority black-owned, women-owned, etc. They've literally ticked off every single box that large corporate asks for, and they're still not winning the business. So we need to somehow turn this lip service into a very solid commitment that allows people opportunity, that allows the Siya Kolisi stories to emerge in our SME space, and on their own merit, but they need access to opportunity, and that's where we need to focus our efforts.
So I think from my side, and I think Sam alluded to it earlier, is that we're both trying to convince other people to give us money to invest in SMEs, because if we rely on the people that have the money to invest in SMEs, we don't think that it would happen, because for one, you need specialized skill sets, and you need a particular type of experience and exposure to the SME market to be able to do it. When we engage with lots of the institutional investors, you know, the capital holders and the board of trustees, they're very cautious about the SME space. I mean, everybody buys into the rhetoric SMEs, engine for growth, job creation, economic development, key part of supply chain. But nobody actually is willing to then say, okay, how can I make this business not an SME? Because that shouldn't be our goal. Our goal should never be to have these businesses forever and a day be an SME. I mean, we should want them to be the Naspers, to be the Vodacoms of this world at some point in time. So you have to develop it, but why can't you attract capital into that space? What we find is that institutional investors in particular, they always look at it from a portfolio perspective. So they look at the money that can be allocated to alternatives, to SMEs, in line with the money that then can be allocated to from actually, you know, being more active in that space. One, SMEs, difficult to due diligence. Difficult to drill down into an SME because lots of the time they aren't formal reporting structures, they aren't proper record keeping, they aren't massive teams, massive finance teams, massive ops teams that can actually give you all of this information. Because it's difficult to due diligence, difficult to value. In lots of situations you find that, for one, business owners themselves have uninformed values, opinions of their business, so they significantly overvalue their business in our opinion. And two, you find that there isn't really a comparable peer group when you're looking at these businesses. And three, difficult to exit. So yes, these businesses and the type of businesses that we invest in are probably not by the end of our investment term going to be listed on a public exchange. We have to work hard and actively to be able to take these businesses to the next stage of their evolution. And what we do is we plan that. We plan that from day one. We make sure that there's a plan in place so that when we leave a business, it's larger, it's better structured, it's got proper governance in place, and it's actually something that either somebody in its value chain would want to acquire or another investor would want to acquire and then take it to the next level. And maybe after that level, that business is ready to be listed. So I think from our perspective, challenges are there. Please don't get me wrong. Please don't be fooled by the suit to think that, you sit in a boardroom and try to manage SMEs. I look like Yusuf most of the days. It is only for today that I'm dressed in a suit. Because the truth is that if you roll up your sleeves, if you invest logical strategies, fit for purpose, you actually have the ability to effect real change in SMEs and develop these businesses beyond just capital investment. Thank you.
Just shortly, it's clear from the discussion that there is no shortage of passion, of innovation, of drive, but what's still lacking, up to this day, is equity. Because even on the financing side, I find that it's easier to get debt, but that debt is always conditional on getting appropriate equity and appropriate security. So I think that's where a little bit of faith is necessary, it's needed, because we need to start looking, not possibly at the track record, when it comes to the SMEs and the emerging companies, but more around the structuring of the project. Is it structured from start to finish? Are the risks properly managed? And I find that with the high-value commodities, they have organized themselves such that there is pre and post and linkages to market. So what's only outstanding is the equity. So if you want to have high impact, make good returns, we believe that the SMEs and the emerging markets are the way to go.
Thank you. So guys, obviously this is a massive topic to cover in 30 minutes. All of the panelists are experts doing very different things. They'll be around so you can have a chat with them afterwards. For me, the takeaway here is, in fact, the starting point is the same as the takeaway. It's that this is a space that has to thrive for South Africa to thrive. So if you're here because your outcome is a thriving South Africa, you have to be considering what you're going to be doing in the SME space. It doesn't happen without that. There's opportunities for institutions, there's opportunities for big checks, there's opportunities for individuals, and there's opportunities for small checks to go directly to SMEs. The pipeline is strong, it's a vibrant space, and there's opportunities to go into the rest of Africa, and very importantly from an investment perspective, the returns are there. And if well managed by good managers, the risk can be mitigated. So on that, I think we leave you, and we hope that we encourage you to invest in the SME space in South Africa.
Thank you. Thanks, Yusuf, Samantha, Matane. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time for coming and sharing your experiences with us. One of the things I noticed is how quiet the room is when we talk about investments, which for me is interesting because we, on the one end, are talking about how important it is to invest in SMEs, and yet our energy in the room doesn't reflect that. And maybe that's something for us to consider. It's really something for us to deep and heartened conversation about. Let me make, if I may, just very quickly before I call the next panel, a quick point here. And I would be remiss if I didn't make this point given who is in the room. I think actually the reason why investors find it difficult to raise capital from limited partners is a very simple reason. It's not a complex reason. I think we make this reason far more complex than it is. Look for excuses that aren't there. It's a very simple reason. South Africa is a dual economy. So what you've got is a first world capital market system, and you're trying to build SMEs which are coming from a third world basis. This is not, I don't know, let me just be quiet. This is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. Let me ask you a question. It's a simple question. I was debating with somebody yesterday who was talking about, day before yesterday, and we were talking about black economic empowerment. And the point they were making was around natural distortion of competitive dynamics, that if you introduce a social dynamic, then you naturally distort competitive dynamics. And I said, well, you know what's interesting, Babuz Amin, and you'll resonate with this, is black economic empowerment is not new. It's not even happening for the first time. The British did it, yeah? After the 1900s, they had English economic empowerment. That's why the oldest insurance company in Africa is Mutual and Federal, British. The oldest bank is Standard Bank, British. The oldest brewery, South African Breweries, British. Now, I can tell you for free that when the entrepreneurs who started those businesses went and started those businesses, they were not jumping through the loopholes people are making entrepreneurs jump through today. 1948 comes, the Nats take over, and the Nats had to make a decision. Do we take equity from British-owned businesses or do we build our own businesses? They decided not to take equity in British-owned businesses. That's why Afrikaners didn't buy shares in British businesses, they built their own. And so what happened at the time? They created Volksbank, the National Building Society, NBS. My father used to bank with them. Many years later, those were amalgamated into ABSA. Instead of buying Old Mutual, they created Santam and Sanlam. They created their own. And I can tell you for free, when they went and raised capital to build those businesses, they did not jump through the loopholes we are making entrepreneurs jump through today. And so today, here we are. We're in power. We govern the instruments of policy. And what's really happening is technocrats and bureaucrats are trying to make the best decision and minimize the loss. These two things are mutually exclusive. You can't say you want a high-growth enterprise economy for small businesses, and then on the other end goes, but yeah, I don't want to take any losses. Yeah, then take your money and put it in the JSE and hope Steinhoff doesn't hit you. I'm sorry, but I feel very strongly about this. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. And the truth is that there are too many people working in government departments too busy pushing paper, worried about ticking the box so that the process was followed, not about the underlying impact of what's happening on the other side. And we are all complicit. We have an operation in Limpopo, in Toyando. So we went and invested 11 million rand, put up an infrastructure. I'll never forget, we were at the board meeting last year, Tanya. Sam, you'll remember this. And I had to leave the board meeting early. You know why? Because our hub was taken over by thugs and criminals who just commandeered it and wanted to extort money from us. You go to the local police station, say to the local police station, this is what's happened. And the policeman says, it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter. Your car and it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter. So what do? You go to court. And what happens when you get to court? The judge postpones it. Every single month the judge postpones it, your asset is running a loss, your investment is being depreciated. Every single month. And eventually, true story, beginning of this year, we went and removed our entire asset infrastructure, completely disinvested, and have brought the money back into Joburg. Which means there are now entrepreneurs in that market who are all the poorer because somebody was ticking a box. It's called substance over consequence, ladies and gentlemen. What is the substance of what you want to do? It's not complicated, this thing. I really think we need to have a genuine, honest conversation with ourselves about this. And then one final point, and I'm almost sure this is going to upset someone. At some point, we need to have a conversation about whether or not we really want to broaden economic access and base, or whether or not we want to be seen to be broadening economic access and base. The truth is, finding entrepreneurs to case study for these conferences should be an easy feat because there should be 15,000 of them to case study. But guys, it's hard to do. How many of you here are wearing a suit made by an entrepreneur? I am. How many of you here live in a house built by an entrepreneur? I do. How many of you here who are running businesses are buying for every single day from entrepreneurs? We say it. It sounds good. But whether or not we do it, I said to my neighbor who's an Afrikaans fellow the other day, I promise. I said to my neighbor who's an Afrikaans fellow the other day, you and I have one simple mandate. I'm not going to say it mandate the way they taught me in the Model C school. We have one simple mandate. You know what that mandate is? That mandate is to make sure that when you and my kids grow up, they don't have to worry about whether or not there's a law in place to include participation of disadvantaged groups. But we won't do it when we're not doing it because we're moving too slow, we're way too lethargic, and I think we're taking our own sweet time. I'm saying this because in the room there are people in here who are dispersing capital to people who operate in this space. Open up, take the risk, meet people halfway. It's really, really important. Are we ready? Is our next panel ready? Good. So our next panel is there we go. There we go. So will you introduce your panel then? Huh? Will you? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your final panel for the day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi there and welcome everyone. So my name is Alison Kalia. I'm from Endeavour. I lead the Endeavour team here in South Africa. And so what is Endeavour? It's an organization that supports and mentors medium-sized entrepreneurs here locally in South Africa to help them thrive. So a lot of what the story that you heard earlier on today. But before getting into more of that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about who you're going to be meeting and talking with today. So I want to say you've got on the stage 3 fantastic examples of medium-sized businesses that are really making a huge difference in South Africa's economy. From technology to business process to BPO and then mining. So Kees Kappers, Candice Roberts, and Buan Moloto. But before getting into that, something that I just wanted to reiterate, which you've heard many times this morning, but it's so important for me. These people who are on the stage today, they're leading teams and they build businesses that are really making a huge difference in our economy. They're creating revenue, they're paying enormous amounts of tax through to our treasury, and more importantly, creating jobs. So I want to say, just from me, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be up here talking to them, and also as Endeavour. We work almost on a day-to-day basis with Callforce, so Candice, and also with Wise Talkers. So just to kick us off then, what we wanted to do today, we're going to be talking through, first off, the entrepreneurs are going to tell us their stories so we can understand the phenomenal growth that they've experienced in their business to date, but then also, more importantly, where they're taking their businesses to in the future. So, Kees, first let's hear from you. It's a struggle. Have you got it?
Hello. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and for those remaining in their seats, thanks for staying. My name is Kees Kappers. I'm the founder of a company called Wise Talk. We took an opportunity about 6 years ago to improve engagement to blue-collar or non-desk workers in emerging markets. 85% of organizations globally, their organizations' employees are disengaged, and switching from a disengaged employee to an engaged employee, you end up with 22% better profitability over time. So I started the business 6 years ago. We now have 60 employees. We'll close this year just shy of $2.5 million in revenue. We're a proudly South African business, so the technology was built in South Africa by South African tech engineers. We're based in Stellenbosch and Johannesburg. We count Anglo-American and De Beers as clients globally, and we have about 400,000 employees in emerging markets using our software solution today. We were recognized by Sipa Pichana, the chairman of Anglo Gold Ashanti, a year ago of helping them achieve their best safety record in history. So we're very, very proud of those milestones. Yeah, I'm a proudly South African entrepreneur. I walk into our offices every day and I'm really blessed to see that we have 60 people in my team, although my bank balance hemorrhages that thought. But notwithstanding, it's a phenomenal business. We're very, very proud of what we've done. We're in the process of internationalizing now, so we've just opened an office in the Netherlands to cater for our internationalization strategy, and that's our story. So thank you again for having me.
Thanks, Kees. But something you didn't mention, that the team has actually doubled their size in the last year, yeah? And if you start talking about the percentage growth figures that they've achieved, I want to tell you, out of this world. And at the same time, you're reaching new channels overseas, not just the same channels that you've been looking at in South Africa. So really, hats off to you and well done.
Thank you very much.
So Candice.
Hi everyone, I'm Candice Roberts, the CEO of Coolforce and also one of its original founders. And we are a much older and mature business. We've been in business for 20 years now. This year celebrates our 20th anniversary. So I can be proud to say that I've paid my salary for 20 years. We provide business process outsourcing services, which sounds like a very big mouthful, but essentially that is outsourced contact centers or back office administration processes across many different industry sectors. But we see ourselves as specialists specifically in EdTech, which is quite a different space for the BPO sector, as well as retail and financial services. So my story, of course, started many years ago, as I said, in 1999, not as a business process outsourcer at all, but more as a recruitment company providing staff into the contact center industry. And I think the motivation for wanting to do that is really important to understand, is we really wanted to help youth get into work and bridge that gap between unemployment and employment. And, you know, sometimes it starts with the small things, because when people are looking for employment, they feel very vulnerable. It's a very difficult time in your life, as any of you, if you've interviewed for jobs either long ago or recently, it's a difficult process. And, you know, through that it was hard. I mean, the entrepreneurial journey, going into the market, and, you know, you're just a brand, Candice Roberts. You don't have any credibility. But we were very fortunate. Through a lot of perseverance and hard work, we secured our first 2 clients, Standard Bank and Vodacom, which were big brands. We were very fortunate. And then we really entered a high growth phase of 100% growth year on year. And wow, it was just an amazing experience. The company grew in size and staff. And then we hit the worldwide recession, like with a bang. And overnight, 50% of our revenues disappeared. And that was the first really hard thing that I encountered as an entrepreneur. But again, with a very powerful team and a lot of dedication and resilience, because really it is about resilience. Over 20 years, you experience a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but it's about the people around you that support you, that get you through these things or help you grow to certain heights. Anyway, we grew back, doubled in size, and then I'm going to pause the story for a second, because there was something important that happened somewhere in between all of this. And that is, I was selected to become an Endeavour entrepreneur. Now, Endeavour supports high-impact entrepreneurs, as Alison said, in developing countries. And they helped me through mentorship to make some really key decisions in the business, one of which I will touch on in a little bit. But it also gave me the opportunity, and I think this is very important as an entrepreneur, to be exposed to really global leaders and people that could give insights and challenge your vision and your strategy. And that really helped us getting to a tipping point later in the business's life cycle. I mean, this also included going to things, business courses at Stanford, at Harvard, things that as South Africans we would never even dream of having access to. So I think, you know, as entrepreneurs, it is so important to reach out beyond your circle and be prepared to expose yourself. Anyway, through this exposure in 2014, something happened which was really a catalyst for us changing our business essentially. Deloitte, through Endeavour, came through and did a piece of work and highlighted to us that we were doing many aspects of a business process outsourcing service, which, you know, we couldn't see. And, you know, when we're talking about business process outsourcing, these are large companies that sometimes employ over 250,000 people worldwide, have very sophisticated processes and staff in order to support them. And you know, it was difficult to even comprehend and see ourselves through those eyes. But once a seed is planted, it's amazing how things transpire. And the first opportunity came, and now, 6 years later, we have grown to be a really substantial BPO business that employs almost 2,500 people, which is really, you know, an incredible feat. And many of them, I would say at least 70%, are first-time work seekers that have not been employed before. One of our most complex campaigns that we deliver on is teaching English into China, Japan, and Taiwan over live video streaming. We teach multiple people simultaneously, and we achieve over 96% customer satisfaction. And this is really because of the immense talent that we have in this country that is untapped, and that we don't even realize what opportunities we are sitting on. So we're very excited in terms of the future to be part of an industry sector that is one of the 4 priority industry sectors, which aims to grow up to 500,000 jobs over the next 10 years by 2030. And that's very exciting. And I mean, we've experienced partnerships with government very positively. The PESA, the industry body that I sit on the executive committee of, together with the DTI, have done amazing things in terms of putting South Africa on the map as a premier outsourced destination. And they provide excellent incentives to attract business to come to South Africa. So anyway, it's very exciting to be part of that journey. We really aim to grow hundreds, or not hundreds, maybe tens of thousands of jobs, and really empower people in our country to get access to these career opportunities and to grow there beyond their wildest dreams.
Oh, fantastic, Candice. And also, again, a couple of things that Candice sort of just forgot to mention is their team is up for not 1, 2, but 3 finalists of the BPESA Awards for the BPO sector in South Africa. I mean, remarkable, remarkable achievement, great work. And over and above that, her team is also extending their footprint beyond South Africa, and they're doing phenomenally well in the UK market, which they've been participating in for the last year or so. So thanks and congratulations. Then over to you, Byong.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Buang Moloto. I'm the CEO of Lenhleko Projects. My entrepreneurship journey started in 2013 when I turned 40, and I decided that my new life is just done. Lenhleko Project operates primarily in the mineral processing space, but we also have a steel fabrication workshop that we have established, that we find that it is in good synergy in that we fabricate steel of the plants we are so building. So in relation to our mineral processing business, we have established a cooperation agreement with a multinational OEM company, FLSmith, for their reflux classifier. The reflux classifier is a novel technology in the gravity separation. That is for the recovery of materials like chrome, coal, heavy mineral sands, and manganese, to name but a few. So with this technology and with our guaranteed access to this technology, we approach all mining companies or resource owners, and then we give them an offer to say, let us do test work for you, which we'll do at our own cost to determine whether your material, your resource, your mineral resource can be beneficiated, can be recovered efficiently using this technology. So that's what we do. And then once we have done that and we have established that that the reflux classifier is the technology to do that, as we expect, we give clients an outcomes-based proposition. With an outcomes-based proposition, we're saying we will build, we will design, we will build, we'll operate the plant for you, and then in some instances, we will transfer the technology, the whole plant to you at a later date. And then, but what we want to do, we want to share on an outcomes base. So we ask clients to pay us per ton of product produced. So this partnership with FL Smith, we were able to conclude a waste chrome recovery agreement with Sibanye Stillwater in the Rustenburg area, where to date we've been constructing a 120,000 ton plant to recover the chrome. And then I must say with that we're actually commissioning the plant tomorrow. And this is stemming from the agreement that we signed last year, December, and it has taken us 10 months to construct the plant, and then we are able now to commission it from tomorrow.
Brilliant. Congratulations. Well done. It's a big week.
Thank you.
No, so then just also looping back to some points you heard earlier mentioned by Yusuf and Sam, I think playing in the space in the medium-sized entrepreneurial area in the market, there's an amazing opportunity for you as a business to create a phenomenal success for yourself and for your business. But that being said, over and above that, there's a huge role that you as an individual, as a business leader, but also your team and your business can play in the local economy. And also, having spoken to these three guys, I want to say the contribution that they themselves and their teams make to the community around them and to their staff is phenomenal. So maybe, Ges, you can just
share a little bit about the impact that you have on your community.
Yeah, so I think what's been absolutely amazing for us to see in building the solution that we've done is the impact that we're actually having, to coin of, not to use an overused phrase, but at the coal face, because most of our guys are in the mining sector. But the sheer impact that we're having on the communities around the customers that we serve has been absolutely unbelievable, as well as the actual lives of the miners and for the guys at the blue collar or non-desk working space. So the impact has been absolutely superb. We've had 100% client retention over the last 6 years. As Alison did point out, we've been very fortunate that we've had over 100% growth per year. And in this economic environment in South Africa has been really unbelievable. But internally as a team, we are in partnership with the University of Stellenbosch. So a lot of the graduates that leave the university that are, have psychology degrees or content degrees, etc., we bring them, we incubate them into the business. And some of our rock stars today are, Tando and Bansi, who run Pick n Pay. They run ShopRite environments for us. Started as interns and are now managing these massive communities. Our business actually, while we get paid by these big corporates, our business is actually to serve the blue-collar worker. And if we do that well, then the enterprises themselves do well, and hopefully at some stage we start doing well. But the point, I think, for us as an entrepreneur, and for me as an entrepreneur, it is a scary journey. My advice would be to surround yourself with some really unbelievable people. We're also blessed to be part of the Endeavour network, and for us as a business, being part of this network over the last 5 years has been absolutely amazing in terms of the mentorship. But networking for us as a business is profoundly important. And I think, we'd like to change the focus for South Africans is that to view people as balance sheet assets and not as income statement expenses. And really that's what we do as a business, but overall, as I said in my introduction, the mere fact that I started the business 5-6 years ago with 3 people and we now have 60 people in our company, that's what SMEs are about, is about employing people in our country. So thank you.
It's great. No, it's great. Thanks for sharing that with us. So Candice, over to you, but something I just want to mention is, if any of you have an opportunity to go and visit the Coalforce offices, I mean, you might have visited a call center or another BPO in your life before, but I can tell you, you've never walked into an office where the culture and the level of happiness and the level of productivity is anything close to the team that Candice and her team runs. It's really, really wonderful. So well done to you on that, and also the amount of individuals who you employ that come straight out of high school and don't have any other work opportunities. It's really inspiring. So thanks, but over to you.
Alison will stay up to that. So, you know, as I said, when I started the journey, it was about the people. That really was helping facilitate entry into the job market. And the absolutely fantastic part about pivoting into a business process outsourcing company is that we've had much more control to determine, for instance, the level of experience, education that is required for these particular positions. And our stance is first and foremost, if a client doesn't dictate, we don't look for experience or post-matric qualifications. Because the case studies that we have show that the people that we employ really with a very specific training style where we layer very simple information to ultimately deliver a very complex job can be done over 20 days. And at that point, they come out of training in 20 days and they operate at the same extraordinary service levels as the rest of the agent population. And, you know, so when I talk about people, it's like really, I feel like we now are finally in this structure of our business achieving what our ultimate aim always was. And I believe those people then go on to grow into other career opportunities and even international career opportunities in specialist positions, because the BPO sector worldwide is such a growing industry sector. I mean, India and the Philippines alone employ 2.6 million people in this particular sector. So it's very possible that South Africa can grow to the 500,000 jobs that we've targeted. But we first got to believe that we have the talent in our country to be able to deliver it. And that's what we like to showcase. That's what we're very passionate about. The next part is to bring work to, for instance, the townships, because the majority of the people that we employ live in these communities, and really that work should be closer to home and delivered through world-class centres in townships like Soweto. And that is very much what we're busy with right at the moment. Other key part is that we grow all of our staff out of our agent pool. So when I say that the management staff, the junior management staff, mid-level, senior, they all are grown. We brought in very little expertise externally. So it really does give incredible growth opportunities to people. And that makes us very proud, and that really gets our team up and going. So when, you know, we say we're up for top awards, it is amazing. Top operator of the year, top campaigner of the year, top manager of the year. But that is all not down to me. I provide leadership, but it is down to every single person that is that coalface, delivering that work at every moment, every day, and creating that culture where people really feel valued and understand the importance of what they're delivering, because you can be amazed at what they can achieve when they feel that way.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, first of all, our contribution into is that we have invested 260 million rand into the economy this year. That is the worth of the plan that we built in Rustenburg. Secondly, even during the construction period, we have supported local companies because we've procured from them, whether it is the earthworks that we did or whether it is accommodation for the people, for the construction team, whether it is the PPE, the scaffolding, all kinds of procurement that is associated with the construction of the plant. We procured from the local companies, and in many instances, we had preferred black-owned companies. Now that we're actually starting up with the operations, we have created for the plant 60 high-quality jobs that are sustainable, because the plant has to be operated by technically skilled people, by artisans, by chemical engineers. You have to have engineering assistants that are adequately trained. So all we say is that we have provided quality jobs in that regard. Same thing as well, we
we are providing even local companies extended contracts, whether those contracts are related to product loading or whether they're related to product transportation, security, and all, or cleaning of offices and change house. And these are like 3 or 5 year contracts. So in other words, our business has become bigger than itself. You know, we have not just become a beneficiary of a project, we are now becoming a provider of services, you know, and then other companies can come. But on top of that, we believe in empowerment. We have established Linhleko Excellence, which for us is a center of excellence, in that we want to train aspiring entrepreneurs in the Rustenburg region and connect them also with other bigger companies that enable us to be able to pull such a project as this. And then we also provide in-house training for our people, but also we planning to provide learnership and internship for the communities that are around our operations. That is the contribution that we are making as Linhleko Projects to our communities.
Fantastic, thanks, it's awesome. Just picking up one of the points you guys mentioned earlier, saying it's really important the team that you have around you, the mentors that you have around you, in addition the investors that are supporting your business and really investing in the capital to drive your growth. So just maybe, especially thinking about the previous panel, we were sitting as a VC crew, just your message as entrepreneurs to the investors and also lessons for other entrepreneurs out there. What do you say is important to you when you think about who your investors are?
So for us, we've been very blessed that we've had a number of key investments, both from Invenfin, which is part of the Rainbow Group, but also from Harvest, which is now being managed by the Khlasani Fund, which is part of Endeavour. But for me as an entrepreneur, while you may be selling some equity and getting some cash in, it's very important to surround yourself with people that can advise you and that can answer the questions that you don't know the answers to. So to surround yourself with people that have the same vision as you do, but can also be there for you when you hit a rough spot, which you invariably end up doing. It's really important to have people around you that you can call on that are like-minded and that can take you to where you want to be as an entrepreneur.
Super. Candice, for you?
We haven't raised external financing. We've essentially bootstrapped it for 20 years. And I think as an entrepreneur...
You make many people envious in the room.
Well, I don't know, it always sounds so exciting to raise capital. Have more to spend, but I suppose that can also be a problem. You know, it might help to really educate, it might be educating investors, but also educating entrepreneurs on how they can capitalize their business and, you know, and what impact that can have. You know, when I look at our business now, we're growing a global business. It's targeting predominantly the UK, the US, Australia, and Asia. And, you know, that will take a very different growth plan to create these tens of thousands of jobs that we want to contribute. So I think education on us in terms of how we can utilize it and how we can access it would be tremendously helpful. And I'm sure, I mean, I've had actually a lot of exposure, as I said, to top business people, but yet I still don't understand it, really how we could utilize it. So I'm sure there are many other entrepreneurs out there that sit in a similar predicament and maybe have smaller businesses that could really catalyze their growth through capital injection.
Yes. Regarding partners that you attract, I mean, as an entrepreneur, and then what I've realized is that when you are a startup company, investors or partners do not necessarily invest in the organization. They invest in the person. They invest in you. So one of the things that you always have to be careful, or that you have to guard, is your personal credibility, your personal character, you know, your work ethic. You know, can you be trusted? You know, are you authentic? Are you genuine in relation to how you deal with your potential partners and potential investors? They have to trust you, and they have to ensure that somehow yours and their values are aligned.
Limpopo is very fortunate that in relation to our partner, which is this international OEM FirstSummit, that we had alignment. First of all, they believe in South Africa. They believe that South Africa is the land alive with possibilities. You know, I mean, they believe also that there should be socio-economic transformation, you know, that will result in inclusive growth for all of us. So those were not primarily the things that we started engaging on. We had first established the technical connectedness. Would we, in the way that we relate, could we form a sustainably profitable partnership? And once we had done that thing, all the other boxes we were able to tick. The one thing also that I've observed with investors is that they do not want people with an entitlement mentality. You know, even though they are enabling, and they are enabling and not entitling, like BBBEE and the likes. Those by themselves, even though they are two advantages of black people, do not they do not do the job. What does the job is the organization, is the people. And then if you couple the enabling environment with your grit, with your determination, with your conviction, that you are determined to do, you will achieve. I think it will be very beneficial for both parties. So we would like investors in the organization that share our values, that share the corporate value of South Africa, but also that's willing to go into remote areas, you know, because as a mineral processor, we go into villages, you know, we go, so you must have your investors that are comfortable, and also that know that you, as a company, have got the know-how. First of all, the expertise, the technical expertise, but secondly, you understand the local dynamics, and then you have the ability to forge a creative, mutually beneficial partnership with all stakeholders that are there. And we also look for investors that do not just want, that are invested in the optimization of existing resources, but investors that also are excited by the unearthing, unlocking of hidden potential. Because our technology, we go into the waste material, things that were regarded as, it's got no economic value. Now it is difficult, and then some people doubt, but that is a space that we're going to, and then it is a space that offers superior returns. And then if investors like that, yeah, they will have partners in Limpopo.
Great, thanks so much. And I just wanted to close the panel and say again, thank you so much to three phenomenal entrepreneurs. You guys are building exceptional businesses. You've worked enormously hard to get where you've got to, and I want to say the vision, what you've got for the future, it inspires all of us and makes us very proud. So well done and thanks so much.
Nicely done, yeah, just leave it there. Okay, that concludes our formal proceedings. How are we feeling? Good? So, what we're going to do now, we're cognizant of time. We are under a bit of pressure because there are other concerns about which we, I suppose, they're not really necessary for me to tell you, but suffice it to say that it's important that we call it now. So this brings and concludes the end of the program. The time as I have it, ladies and gentlemen, is 1:15. Correct me if I'm incorrect. I might be a minute or so just shy of it. We're going to break for a 30-minute lunch. Please, this next part is very important. Exactly 30 minutes the lunch is, and the lunch will be just outside. After which, the buses will be ready for us to leave. Very important, if you came here on the bus, you have to leave here at exactly 1:45. So exactly 1:45, all the buses depart to head back to the ITC. Hope you've enjoyed our time today. Hope you took home some interesting tidbits and information. Thank you all very much. Sewa.